Hello and welcome back to another Out of Spec Reviews video. Welcome here to Northern Colorado. And of course, you guys know what this station means. It means it's time for another 70 mile per hour highway range test. This time with the 2022 Tesla Model 3 Performance. This is a 2022 Tesla Model 3 Performance. It's owned by my friend Drew, who owns Martian Wheels. You guys know we love Martian Wheels on our Tesla, and I have to say this one is not on Martian Wheels. Drew has kindly kept it on the stock wheels so we can do this test, and then it's gonna get swapped out, modified, and crazy. So I can't wait to see what happens with this car, but it is a brand new, fresh 2022 Model 3 Performance. Now, there have been some changes to this car over the years, and we actually shot a video just recently driving this car in the canyons in Los Angeles, where we talked about how different it feels from my 2019 and Drew's previous 2020. For starters, seemingly the motors sound a little bit different, the suspension's a little bit softer, it's got double pane glass, and most importantly, there's a new battery pack in this car. I believe my Model 3 Performance, it's a 2019, had about a 75 kilowatt hour battery pack, plus or minus. This, I think, is up to about an 82 kilowatt hour pack, and we'll find out today, of course. What's interesting about this test is I'll walk you through the procedures and also how we're going to do it. So the procedures of this test is very stringent. We have to do it one way because we've been seeing a lot of people starting to do more range tests in the EV world. And I have something to say. It has to be a constant speed loop style test, or at least exactly repeatable speed conditions if you're not going to do a constant speed, to make it a comparable range test against multiple cars. And we've locked ourselves into the 70 mile per hour highway loop style test because that's just what we've run on every single car. So it's a comparison basis. And that's exactly what we plan to do today with this. We have the tire pressure set at manufacturer recommended pressures. We're gonna leave here at a DC fast charging station at 100%. I've supercharged the car today. I've driven it hard. We've plugged in here using the CCS to Tesla adapter. No, you can't buy this exact adapter. I made a whole video on this adapter explaining why. Maybe at some point in the future you can. Maybe at some point Tesla will offer this in the US. As far as I know, there's only 25 of these adapters in the whole country. And so it's kind of funny being able to come here and charge up way faster than CHAdeMO speeds. We're gonna do a 100% charge on a DC charger to warm up the battery pack, and that's so that when we leave we have the maximum capacity in the pack. Now, it's a nice warm day today. It's about 72 degrees and it's only windy in this exact spot. As soon as we go up the highway about 5 miles, the wind dies down to nothing. So it's really the perfect day for this test. Although here, standing here with my hair going crazy, you wouldn't know it. And so, yeah, let me show you around the car a little bit. The color, by the way, is a wrap. It will not affect the results of today's test really at all. And so it's wrapped rock gray, something. I don't know. If you watch our review of this car, Drew, it says what the color is, but it looks great like this. Absolutely awesome, I think. And a lot of changes for the new car. So I'm looking forward to doing this. What we're going to do is leave here in Wellington, Colorado, go up to Cheyenne, Wyoming, over into Nebraska, and once we get about a little bit more than half charge, we'll turn around and come back. Now, we're gonna go until this thing barely stops moving, and that's an interesting thing because with recent Tesla updates, I wanna say in the last year and a half, there is a hidden buffer now below zero, at least on new cars. Don't rely on this if you have an older car. And I should have hooked up Scan My Tesla to this, but I honestly forgot. So I don't have all my data, but I kind of know how to get the most out of this car. We have to go deep beyond zero. So Tesla pretty much has a 3 kilowatt hour buffer below zero programmed into every new car. Now, this car's fresh. It's only been driven to Vegas and back. It's brandy new. And so we're gonna use most of that 3 kilowatt hour buffer. Essentially what I'm gonna do, because I don't have my Scan My Tesla app looking at all my battery data, I'm going to, as soon as we hit zero, log the amount of kilowatt hours we've used, and then I know I have 3 more to make it back here where it's completely out. We're gonna get the most we can out of this thing, as we do with every electric car. Interesting thing, let me show you the tires over here. Pirelli P0, but electric adapted and a Tesla OE tire. And so you can see they have the noise foam on the inside. That's what this says, and it's also electric adapted. I'm pretty certain my Model 3 Performance was delivered on the Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires, which I think is pretty interesting. Even more interesting than all of this is just recently I ran a 70 mile per hour highway range test on my used degraded Model 3 Performance with over 100,000 miles, about 105,000 miles. I want to say we got about 240 miles in this exact test in actually similar conditions. We're going to see how much the new car does fresh with a new battery pack in comparison to mine. I think that's actually a relative metric to bring up because used Tesla prices are almost as much as new ones right now in this crazy market. And, you know, do you actually gain anything by waiting for a new car, or should you buy a used one? Now, mine's an extreme example of that because I have 100,000 plus miles, but interesting to test for sure. So what we're going to do is we're at about 60% state of charge. We're going to go until it completes at 100%. As soon as it does, we're going to unplug and do the test. While we're waiting for the Model 3 to charge up, I want to announce that Masterworks is back sponsoring another video. We are huge fans of Masterworks because Masterworks allows the common man like you and me to invest in contemporary art pieces painted by the likes of Picasso, Monet, etc. The way their system works is you're able to go and use their online platform to buy a share of an art piece, which is just so cool. So a small amount of money can invest in a stable asset like contemporary art. And Masterworks holds on to these art pieces that they own and you're investing in from about 3 to 7 years, and they have about a 30% net return rate over the time that they've been running this. Now that far outpaces the S&P 500. You can't guarantee future results, but it's all looking very promising. So hedge against inflation in these uncertain times and get investing in contemporary art using our link in the description below to skip the line and join Masterworks. So let's take a look at what's going on here. We are now at 69% state of charge. They've made everything so small. Man, the new update, I know I've complained about it in a ton of videos. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, 58 kilowatts at 70% state of charge. That's kind of where we've been sitting. These ChargePoint CPE 250 chargers used to be labeled as 125 kilowatt in a shared configuration. Now, they all are labeled at 62.5, which means yeah, it takes longer to charge. Still better than the CHAdeMO adapter with the CCS adapter, because CHAdeMO's 125 amp, which means at just about 80%, we'd touch 50 kilowatts, but we're talking maybe only a, I don't know, 15% difference on this particular charger. But at like an Electrify America big boy charger, yeah, we can get almost 200 kilowatts with this thing. So let's turn this off. I was actually preconditioning it to a supercharger on the way over here because it doesn't precondition for CCS chargers. So I selected the Loveland Supercharger, which you can see here, and I was having the battery warm up to fool the car thinking I was going over there. Anyway, the car is definitely warm. Temperature outside's wonderful. The wind here is pretty strong, but it's not as we keep going. So I think that should be just fine. And our plan essentially is to go from here up and then over this way into probably somewhere this area, and then we'll rock it back and down. So let's, I guess, basically fill up. We should go to trips. We should do a trip B. We should call it rain. Actually, hold on. Let's cancel that because Drew may want to keep trip B as forever. Let's do trip A as range. There we go. Range test. And then we're going to reset range. Boom. And we'll set trip B as lifetime, just in case Drew wants that. So no one will reset that on him. So let's see what this thing will do on one charge. I have high hopes. I think it's going to do pretty big numbers would be my guess here. Tesla's always struggled to reach the EPA rated range on the highway. But I think this one feels a little bit more efficient. If we just go here to software, additional vehicle information, you can see here really quick, we have CCS adapter support enabled. That's what we're using. We have the induction front motor and the permanent magnet rear motor, which is different than the Model X I just drove that had dual permanent magnet motors. Essentially what this means is this vehicle under light load on the highway can pretty much shut off the front motor without sort of flux related losses. So essentially there will be no torque impact by just shutting off electricity to the front motor, whereas the permanent magnet motor can do all of the work. So this, to me, seems to be the best drivetrain setup, not only for performance, because you get all the good juice off the line on the rear axle with the permanent magnet, being able to give you torque at 0, and then the induction motor's there for efficiency and also added power, but gets out of the way when you just need to cruise. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And again, yes, this is a dual motor performance with the underline and the big wheels. So let's let it hit 100%, then we'll hit the road and see what she'll do. So we are at 99% state of charge. We're doing 5 or 6 kilowatts. Normally with Tesla stuff, they really let you use the full battery pack. Now, I've never tested this brand new pack, but just based off of 10 years of testing Teslas, they always go down to, 1 or 2 kilowatts. So we could be here a while at 99%. Definitely going to get dark out during the test. It's currently 72 degrees Fahrenheit. Perfect range testing weather, but the temperature is going to drop throughout the test. Now, couple things. The pack's warm, car's warm. I'll have climate conditioning running at about 68 to 72 degrees on auto, which is how we always run our tests. Actually, it getting a little bit colder outside, I think, offset some things because this has a heat pump, so it can do heat scavenging, and yeah, just got some very good thermal efficiency here. And also we won't have a big solar load during the middle of the day. So it all kind of averages out. It's not going to get really cold tonight. It might be in the 60s. Still a warm weather range test. It's not like it's going to be a cold weather test. So the car says we have about 5 minutes remaining to get up to 100% state of charge. As soon as it completes, I'm going to unplug the car, reset the trip computer. The trip computer does log all energy when you're in drive. There was a bit of talk earlier, and we had done some testing, and Bjorn Nyland did some testing, where if the car's in park, it doesn't seem to log the phantom drain or just the drain of the system's running. But as long as the car's in drive, which it will be, we'll be able to not only get a 70-mile-per-hour range test, but also a full battery capacity test. Now, battery capacity tests, I typically like to run at lower speeds because there's less heat loss. Obviously, the more current you're pulling to move the thing at 70, you'll have a little bit more heat loss, but it's a great idea, and we're talking maybe a half a kilowatt hour difference over the whole test. It's a great idea to look at sort of starting battery capacity, and then maybe in a year or 2 or 3 after this thing's turned into a race car and been shredded around the track, we can do a degradation test and then compare the results from today to the results way down the line. So I always love doing these things, seeing how it ages. This car is going to live a rough life, literally going to track days all around the country. It's going to be really interesting, but it's in total stock form right now, which is kind of fun. So again, a huge thank you to Martian Wheels. Drew never asked me to plug him on YouTube, but I will say, if you're interested in wheels on your Tesla, specifically ones that are either stronger and more performance oriented, lighter, but also ones that are more aerodynamic, martianwheels.com is your go-to for any Tesla aftermarket wheel. Sorry, Drew, I know you're watching this. You don't like it when I plug you, but it's just great product. So go check out Martian Wheels. And well, it says charging complete, but it's actually still pulling 2 kilowatts, and it's actually climate control is off. So I dealt with this back when I just did the degradation test on my Model 3, and I remember that battery energy was still going into the battery pack. So it might say this for a little while. This means it's just top balancing. We're going to let this finish off, and then we're going to head out. And charging is complete. Everything is good to go. So let's pull this out. I need to pull the CCS adapter off of this handle, and then we're going to hit the road. The sun is just going down, so it's going to be a nighttime test, but the wind actually has completely died down here. So forget my wind comments. This is going to be like the perfect still weather range test. Oh my goodness. Can't wait to see what this thing will do. So the car is on. It says lead limited deceleration when accelerator pedal is released, and that's just because you can't regen if it's full. Let's go here to trips. Let's go to range. Reset. Let's pull up our energy calculation. By the way, I mentioned in a review, this was not in the Model S or X. It actually is. You just can't select it without speaking to the car. You have to say something like Tesla, pull up the energy graph, and then it does that. Anyway, let's run out onto the highway. The Model 3 is a car I am extremely familiar with. You guys know I've done, I think, actually well over 200,000 miles in Tesla Model 3s over the last few years. Look at this, almost no regen, pretty much none. That's great. That means we're actually full, and it means there's Not much of a top buffer. Tesla really lets you charge all the way. They also recommend that you charge to 90% daily, although I've charged my Tesla to pretty much 50% daily every day because lithium likes to be nice and low, and then only charge it up for when I kind of really need the car. But some people use it a little bit more frequently than I do. I'm having trouble talking today. So 72 degrees Fahrenheit. Just barely had to use the friction brakes there, but didn't actually have to. Just super full, and so not much regen. We're going to gently merge up onto the highway. As with all of our testing procedures, we pretty much use the same on-ramps and off-ramps in a loop-style test, and we always target a 70 mile per hour GPS accurate speed right at the end of the on-ramp when it merges with the road. That's our target. So let's jump up. We're going to set this thing, I think, to 71 miles an hour, but I'm going to double check that. And then we're basically going to cruise. This car, by the way, I am going to be using autopilot. We always use driver assistance on this test if the car has it, just to lock in the speed and to make the distance better. It does use a couple hundred watts to run it, but it's just sort of standard. Wow, this car actually is so much faster than what I've been used to driving that I accelerated a little bit too quickly there. But we're just going to gently get ourselves up to the speed. I'm then going to check GPS. So 71, let's lock it in right there. Boom. Autopilot on, hand on the wheel, because it's not a driverless system. For those of you who think it is, it's not. And still requires driver monitoring. It's just here as an aid. Beautiful skies off in the distance. It's about 7:15 p.m. This is going to take a really long time. So let's run up to Cheyenne. Let's see how this all goes, and I'll report along the way. And well, we're only about 1 mile away from where we left, and yes, I confirmed that the 71 mile per hour indicated is a true GPS 70. I also had forgotten to click on the climate conditioning as soon as we left, but we are on 68 degrees on auto. So all standard operating procedures. We are going to run headlights when it gets dark, but I will not run fogs. Again, doesn't make much of an impact or difference here, but just wonderful car. This is one of the loudest stretches of pavement really at any section of the highway today, and it's so much quieter and more refined than my Model 3 Performance. If you notice, when we did our review of this car in Las Vegas, we commented that it's a lot softer and less performance-y than the older cars, and I believe that's still to be true, but it makes it on a road trip like this so much more comfortable than what my Model 3 is. So anyway, we have a long night ahead of us, and we have a lot to talk about on this car. I'll let you know the EPA range, all the good numbers at the end, so we can compare our results with what Tesla says this car can do, or I should say the EPA rates this car to do in the 5-cycle test. And it's just going to be a super interesting one. Can't wait to see what happens. Welcome to Wyoming. We have reached 90% state of charge. Of course, I'll update you at state of charge highlights throughout the test, but very interesting so far. Let me tell you what I'm seeing. This is not a great indication of total range, just because we've only gone one direction, and honestly, the first bit is the most uphill. But right now it's indicating if we multiplied this times 10, we'd get about 240 miles, and that adds up, because if we multiplied by 10, we'd get about 80 kilowatt hours. And so definitely looking like it has a bigger pack for sure. I mean, no question there. And definitely feeling like it's doing a little bit better than some other cars I've recently tested, where we've hit that 90% mark a little bit deeper into Wyoming than we have with some other vehicles in different classes in the same, just a observation. Basically, there's no way to know at this point without just continuing, but the wind is dead still. That never happens here. So extremely still night. We're down to 66 degrees Fahrenheit. Just have to make a quick lane change here. Autopilot, this one just has basic autopilot, not autopilot with full self-driving option, so it doesn't do automatic lane changes. Come on, speed up a little bit, car, and let's rock and roll. Well, we are at 75% state of charge, and autopilot has completely bricked. I'm not sure why. So look what happens when I try and put it on. Wait for the wheel to pop up. Boom. It just goes off. And when it does go on, it won't go on. It's like the whole system just totally crapped out. It just goes dun-dun. And then it was going beep, 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 just randomly. It's like the whole autopilot computer just crashed out. So now I'm having to do throttle manually. All right, let's see if we can do any of this. Can I at least get it on cruise control? Oh my goodness. Nothing. What? Whoa, we're going too fast. Gotta slow down a little bit. Yep, okay. Might have to do reset of the scroll wheels while driving. I'll try and see what feels like 71 miles an hour. I'll pull up my GPS meter on my little device and try and hold it there, do a screen reset, and I'll let you know. I would like to do a 75% check-in, but this is almost a little bit more important, and it's pretty hard to just maintain the speed we need to go without cruise control. Well, the sun is just about to fully set. We're at 74% state of charge. We've traveled 75 miles. And so, wow, this thing's gonna do pretty well. However, I can, even after the screen reset, autopilot, wigging out. So driving manually, just keeping my eye laser focused on the speedometer, because the throttle pedal's so sensitive, the car's so quiet, and the speed can really creep up on you without much sensation, especially when 1 mile an hour makes a difference here. So I've just got it kind of pegged at 71 miles an hour indicated, and hopefully this cruise control resets itself. Otherwise, when we get to the turnaround point in another 10% or 15% state of charge, I'll just get out of the car, get back in, and do like a hard reset type situation. Man, this is weird. I will say I've had a couple times over my years of owning Teslas that this does happen, but I've never had it like happen and not recover. And here it's just like totally not recovering. Very weird. You can see what's happening here on the screen. It's just cruising, and you can see everything just flashing in and out, which would make me think like a sensor is getting data and then not getting it. But clear road, headlights are really good. Look at the high beams really quick. Very good headlights. And yeah, not sure what's going on here. We're just trying to maintain our speed best I can. Well, it's getting to be about that time where we have to think about the turnaround spot. And this is always sort of the magic equation to our range tests, because we go about as far as we can here, but we will of course loop closer down to the station. So we're about, let's see, 5 miles away from our next exit. It's almost 20 miles after that to the next one. So we're gonna take this exit here. The car's predicting a 3% arrival back to the station. Autopilot's working just fine now. And so once we're there, basically we'll loop around, do the thing. The car's giving us the warnings, which means we're kind of stretching it a little bit, but that's fine. And then we'll loop around closer down to the Wellington station. Now, right now we have about a 5 mile an hour headwind as we made it a little bit far east. So we'll get a little bit of a tailwind on the way back, but then we'll also get a little bit of a headwind heading back down to Wellington. Overall, the winds are very low and minor, so it's just, just basically balancing everything out here, which is pretty great. You can see the car making real-time calculations by deciding if we need to speed up, slow down, do whatever we need to do. But essentially, we're going to take this exit here in about 4.1 miles, and that's our next stop. And we have reached our turnaround point, kicking it off of 70 miles an hour, applying a little bit of light throttle here so we don't just hard regen. We sort of want to optimize coasting up to the end point here. And I like these exit turnarounds because they're up a little bit of an incline. Pretty sure this is the exact turnaround we used when we did the Rivian R1T loop. I'm pretty sure it is. Anyway, let's go to the left. I'm pretty sure the Rivian does a little bit actually more range than this car will, and that's just because we've got a much larger pack, not because it's more efficient. So let's merge back on, just gentle cruising. Back up to 71 indicated. Man, the new Model 3 seriously is a big improvement. Tons of small changes back from our car, and it could just be like just no creaks and rattles. It's nice, this car. And look, you know, my thing on Teslas are, I love them, huge fan, but I sort of view them like iPhones. You just got to get a new one every year or two. That's my opinion. I know a lot of people will hold on to them, and I definitely have a soft spot for some of the older Teslas, like the original Model S, and their weird quirks and oddities, and the community that's keeping them alive now that they're coming out of warranty. It's all very interesting and fascinating to me. But let's get back up to speed. We have some cones here, and we're down to a single lane, but we made it out in front of the truck. Nice. So let me just back her down to 71 miles an hour. Auto high beams keep turning on, even though I keep turning them off. Don't understand what that's about. And we're just cruising now. Welcome to Wyoming still. We went Nebraska, now we're back in Wyoming. This message has just stayed on. Lane departure unavailable. But autopilot's been working great other than that one freak out. We're 25% state of charge, 197 miles traveled so far. And, this thing is just keeping going. I mean, efficiency, 291 watt hour per mile at highway speeds on the least efficient wheels for the Model 3. Very good. I'd love to see what a dual motor long range aero car would do for range, but I think I should also borrow the new Standard Plus. Is that what they're called? Yes, Standard Range Plus Model 3 with the LFP pack and aero wheels. I hear those are just magically efficient. So we have a lot of Tesla stuff to get through over the next few months, and I promise I'm working through it as much as possible. It's hard to get Tesla vehicles to test because the manufacturer doesn't loan us cars. So we rely on viewers and friends to loan us the cars, to use their battery packs to the fullest extent to get you these videos. So please, if you live in Colorado and have a Tesla vehicle or an EV that you haven't seen us test yet, it's not out of us not wanting to, it's purely because it's just hard to track down the right vehicles. So we would really appreciate you shooting us a message, and maybe we can even build out a little catalog of who has what here locally, and then also include what the manufacturers keep here locally for us to use, and then maybe we can kind of start building up this arsenal of cars that we can start testing. That would be really, really great. We are back where we started, but we're going to keep going. We're at 9% state of charge indicated. We've done 244 miles so far, and we've pulled 70 kilowatt hours out of the pack. So we've officially pulled 2 kilowatt hours more out of this than I was able to get stretching every last drop out of my Tesla Model 3. So not only is this nice with no degradation, since this is a fresh car, but it's also really nice that it has the newer, larger battery pack. So, this is a sizable difference in my case if I were to upgrade to a new Model 3, which I don't plan to do. We have some other EVs coming. This would be for sure a noticeable increase in driving range for someone who owns an older Model 3 Performance to a new one that's in my situation. But I still think, like, even an older Model 3 long-range rear-wheel drive, there's a lot of owners of that car that watch our videos. That's still sort of the magic car, in my opinion. Still, even though the battery might be a little smaller and it may have degraded a bit, it's still insanely efficient, that older long-range rear-wheel drive. Either way, we're going to loop around. We'll turn around the exits down there, come up, and I'll let you know when we pull off the highway. And here we are cruising along. The car says we won't make it back. I just passed the exit. We're at 2%. It says we're going to get there at -1. That's sort of exactly what we're looking for here. And because, again, the car has that 3 kilowatt hour buffer underneath. I mean, I hope. I've never tested that on this battery pack. If we run out, we run out. It'll be the first ever. But I'm pretty sure we got to get it in the negatives for it to go. I'm fairly certain that all new Teslas have this 3 kilowatt hour buffer underneath. Just to show you really quick, so far we've done 262 miles. We've gotten 75 kilowatt hours out of it. There's more left in the tank. There's more we can do here. I'm not even remotely concerned about making it at all. We have hit 1% state of charge. It did the little good old, I've never been run this slow, and did the 1-2-1-2 dance. But yeah, pretty much just sitting at 1% state of charge. We got 4.9 miles to make it there. That shouldn't be an issue at all. This is the exit it wants us to take here at 0.7 miles. I think what I might do is actually run the frontage road on the way down, just in case it does happen to run out. Again, fresh cars do have weird BMS sway where, like, it may not be fully calibrated. Normally I like to do a calibration before I do a range test, but I only have so much time with this car because it's, again, loaned to me by a friend. So let's see what we should do. We might take that, I think we take the highway back down. Screw it. What's the worst thing that'll happen? We got a shoulder if we need it, but I don't think we will. merging off here. Time to make the loop. Once we pull off at the next exit, then we're just gonna run this frontage road here to the right, or maybe it'll just kind of be out by that point. The big key indicator here is to look at these little dots to the right though. As soon as they really start coming in to center, that's like, okay, we got to get to the charger. That's like, you know, regardless of whatever the numbers say, if these dots come over, because that's based off of real-time battery voltage, we got to, we got to get off the road and get over to the charger. So, yeah, feeling pretty snappy there. Everything's looking good, and I would say no cause for concern. We have just hit 0% state of charge, and we have 76 kilowatt hours of energy used. So I think we're gonna go for another, the goal is 2 more kilowatt hours, maybe more, but usually this pretty much is like, this is when you start using your 3 kilowatt hour buffer. Once you hit 0, plus or minus, maybe there's 4 left in there, which would make sense. 80 kilowatt hour usable pack. That seems about right. 82 gross, 80 usable. I'm thinking we're kind of right on track. Let's get off the next exit, run the frontage road, and as soon as it starts to like lose all response and power, we'll get it to the charger. So here we are pulling off at the charger at 0% state of charge. Again, there's more left in here for sure. So let's just regen out. It's actually pretty good to regen pretty heavily right now, just to spike the pack voltage up a little bit, just to wake some life up into this thing. And I don't mind sitting at the red light just in case it needs to balance a little bit too. So all is looking good. We need to go over there, but we're actually going that way so we can get everything out of it. I think so. At the end of the 70 miles an hour, 268 miles. There's more in it. I just don't trust running 24-mile round trip to the next exit and back. So let's just run it down here at the frontage road. I'll try and do 60 to 70 miles an hour, but the true 70 mile an hour range test, this is what we typically do, is we just run a little bit lower speeds. We are cruising along the frontage road at normal, 55 to 60 mile an hour pace here. We've used, again, total of 77 kilowatt hours. Our dots haven't really creeped in that much. I think what I'll do is run it up to the next stop sign, and then we'll head back and keep an eye on our progress. But we've been going for a while at 0% now, and all is feeling, honestly, just fine. And again, I'm fine with a little bit of that regen going back into the pack just to wake her up from time to time. All right, well, we are just running up to this stop sign. I think we'll turn around and bring it in. Even though the dots aren't going that far, the pedal just got really freaking squishy. And so we're basically going to be super gentle on it. No one's around. Make our U-turn. Good turning radius. Really good turning radius. Better than my car? I don't know. And just like, I don't know. Okay, we got 78 kilowatt hours, 277 miles. I think it's about 3 miles up there. I think we'll see a 280 something would be my guess. Let's just hope she can make it all the way there without running out. My guess is still no issue. We are pulling back into the come and go station, and we've pulled 79 kilowatt hours out of this thing so far. I don't know. I'd love to see 280 miles on the dash. Maybe we just loop around the building a couple times. Our dots were really bad just before the regen, which means we are right at the bottom voltage right now. Nissan Leaf over at the charger. We are right at the bottom of the pack because it's very, the power level is fluctuating depending on basically how much power we're pulling in and out of it. So yeah, let's see what happened. Well, we have arrived back at the charger. It says the battery is really low. The pedal went to the floor, actually, and we pulled in with 280 miles, 79 kilowatt hours pulled. Maybe, if we ran a little bit slower speeds, we could have pulled 80, 81 kilowatt hours out of it. Again, just because it's under load, it has a little bit of heat loss. 282 watt hour per mile, but I am pleased with that. My car did 230 miles. That's a massive difference compared to my old one. So here we are. Let's get this thing juicing up. What I'm going to do is put the CCS adapter in the port the correct way. I'm then going to grab the CCS handle and plug in. A pretty wild situation just happened. I'm just getting this plugged in. I will explain it to you momentarily. Plugged in. Let's get it juicing up. Contactors click instantly. Communications happening right there. And we are juicing up just fine. But I have just experienced something I never have ever. So let's see how the car is doing. And we are charging, but really slowly at the bottom of the pack, and that is very normal for that to happen, just like kind of coming off of bottom voltage. This really means we had this thing out to almost nothing. So let's wake it up a little bit. I turned the climate control off, and let's get some energy in the car. And so, yeah, the craziest thing just happened. I was over here, and this lady in the Leaf, I don't need to put her on camera. I see her standing by the charger, and I'm like, hey, you have any trouble charging? And then she just started bawling like crazy. She's like, I have no money. I can't get my cards to work. I shouldn't have bought an electric car. I don't know how to use this. She's at 15% state of charge. She can't go anywhere. Up here, that's like no range. And I was like, oh my goodness, well, just don't worry about it. You know, activate the car. I said, charge here as long as you need to. It's at midnight. That's such a rough experience for her. So I've just never encountered someone in such distress, such like really big distress. And so, yeah, just activated the whole thing for her, and she's good to charge as long as she needs to. But like, whoa, that is a scary situation. Okay, anyway, cooling fans are kicking on here for some reason as we're plugged into the charger. And let's get this thing juicing, coming off bottom. And I'll talk about the results of the test. So the results of the test, even though we only have 1 kilowatt going in, that's okay. I'm gonna let it sit for like another 5 minutes here doing this, and then I might switch stalls if could be a charging station issue. But Teslas tend to do this. Most electric cars do. When they're really dead, they need very small amounts of power to kind of wake the pack up from a little bit. Anyway, here are the results. We did 280 miles, 79 kilowatt hours, 282 watt hour per mile. Very efficient, definite improvement from earlier cars, definitely a larger battery pack. Could we have squeezed 80, 81 kilowatt hours out of it? Yes, maybe if we were doing a 50 mile an hour or 55 mile an hour highway range test, we could have done something like that. So this is really interesting, actually. You can see the battery pack, or the car is asking for 10, 11 kilowatts right now, which is normal, but almost none of it is going into the battery pack. It's all going to conditioning to get it off top to bottom voltage. This is normal. So I'm going to run in, or I guess I'm going to hang out here, see how long it takes to do this. And I'm going to run and get a bite to eat, because have not eaten actually at all today. Starving. Busy week filming. This thing just needs to come off bottom. And there we go. It just woke itself up, 36 kilowatts, and it's dumping in. And so that's very normal. If you run your car all the way out, that will happen. That is just absolutely normal behavior. And now it will follow standard charging curve as expected. Anyway, just impressed with how solid this thing is. Can't thank you guys enough for watching, and we'll see you again on another episode soon. Bye-bye.